Hello and welcome. In this video tutorial, today we're going to talk about bringing in a file that is a step file. The extension is step, and the reason it's going to be a step file is depending what software you're using. At STCC, we use Mastercam and SolidWorks, and Mastercam will recognize SolidWorks extensions for their files, but depending on the CAD package, also depending on the age of the year of the software, things may change. I have seen where I have had SolidWorks files that were created in newer versions than the Mastercam software year that I have, and I wasn't able to open them. So a way around that is to save the file as a step file. And a step file then is a universal language. It works similar to a PDF, if you will. You save a Word document as a PDF, and it can be opened on a Mac or in a viewer, and you do not have to have Word installed on the computer for that. So let's get started with that. And so I'm going to go to File, Open, and notice that this file that I'm talking about, the extension is step. Okay, and so that is an ISO standard for exchange of product data. So that's what that stands for here. I'm going to open that file. So this is the part that you did a couple weeks ago, or in the last week or two, excuse me, with regards to creating toolpaths around this part. This is just the part itself without any toolpaths or anything created here. It's just a blank part, and no stock has been created. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of actually creating stock and put that around here. Of note, on this part here, I'm looking from the top view, and where is the 00? Well, because it was a step file, this is not in the correct orientation. Usually we have the corner of the stock is going to be located at our X0, Y0. The reason we're using this part is if I flip this over, you'll note that there are counter bores on the bottom side, and the only way that we can actually install those counter bores, put chamfers on these holes, put a chamfer on the bottom of the part, is we need to rotate that part to op 20. So we're going to go through the process of doing that. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to open up our seed file. And in our seed file, essentially it's a file that we've put together that has a series of vices that we can use. And I'm going to go and grab that file now. So I'm going to open that up. And here is our seed file. I don't want to save this. And oh my gosh. So what am I looking at here? And if somebody was to ask me, what is some of the challenges I see in working in manufacturing, as far as on the engineering level, on any level at all in manufacturing, to me, the two most important things are attention to detail. You just need to have attention to detail. Everything is important, from having a chip possibly under the vise, causing the part to be lifted and not making the two surfaces parallel to each other when you go and mill them or face them. And the second thing is organization. As parts become more complex, we really need to have a way to go and identify what operation is being done on in what sequence. So what we've done here for this particular file is we have a series of vices here. Let me switch to the levels here. And essentially, they're also color coded. If this is your job, day in and day out, to put tool paths to a part in Mastercam, you want to have tricks that can make it easier to identify things. And essentially, for us to do that, what we've done is, if I come over here and I look, and this is op 10 fixture, and it's dark green. All right. The fixture for this particular fixture, it's two components. It's the rear jaw, so that can move in and out, and the other is the solid jaw of the vise. So the rear jaw, to mimic what we have in the lab, the rear jaw opens in and out. Okay. I'm going to now move down to the second vise here. The second fixture is brown. So the fixture is brown, and what that is anything that I see, if I see a part, I open up a Mastercam file and is brown in color, the stock is brown, I know that that is relating to, that should be the second operation. Well, for us, we're counting by tens. That would be op 20. When I come to the next vise here, this is teal in color. So anything that would be teal would be associated with op 30. That'd be the op 30 fixture. Orange is 40. And the colors are not so much important here. 50 is pink, 60 is red. Okay. If you were to take a square or a rectangle, it has 6 sides. Side 1 would go in here, side 2, side 3, side 4, side 5, side 6. So then you want to be able to, the idea is you want to be able to turn things on and off and have them color coded to match a particular item here. So now I'm going to, actually, here's our table. And the idea, why do we use Mastercam? Well, there are many reasons, but for our verification, we have Vericut, but the part has to be put in the right location. And this vise represents the true size of the vise that we have on our machines out in the lab, so that the height, if I get a right side view here, the height of these jaws are the same size as the height of the ones that we have in the lab, and the width of the vise, so that when we are going and verifying or back plotting, we can actually see before we go out into the lab that we are not going to have any unwanted outcomes with an end mill crashing into a jaw or crashing into the part, and the stock has to match that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off the table here. The table is also shown here. I'm going to shut that off. And you'll notice here, if I look at this, where I have my mouse, where is that point? Well, it's on the bottom of the vise. And if I get a top view of that, you'll notice it's in the center of the vise, excuse me. So what that is that's actually the center of rotation. When I'm going to rotate this around, we are actually rotating around the center of that location. So actually what we're going to do for this exercise here is we are going to use a seed file similar to this. The difference is I've kind of taken the liberty of removing some of these. Before I do that, let me switch over to the toolpaths. And when I switch over to the toolpaths, notice the operation 20, it's brown. 30 is teal, 40 is orange, 50 is pink, 60 is red. Those are meant to correspond with the color of the vise. So if you are working on op 50 and it's in an orange vise, you know that someplace the part is in the wrong location. So that's the idea. As the parts become more complex, we need to have a way to really understand where the parts are when this is your job. You try, the whole point of this, at first it may seem like, my goodness, you're doing a lot of extra work here. But when this is your job, you need as many tricks that you can have to make your job easier. And this is one way to do that, is to be able to separate out where things are between op 10, op 20, op 30, op 40. That's the idea that we're trying to go for here. What we're going to do now is I am going to actually open up another file here that doesn't, because our part only has an op 10 and an op 20, I'm going to go and select another file that I want to open. So I am going to open this particular file here. I'm not going to save this. And it's the same file. The only difference is I've removed there's no view sheets that are assigned here. I've removed the vices for 30, 40, 50, and 60. The table is still here. We still have the fixture in brown and the fixture in green, and they're in the same location. So one of the next item, I'm going to shut everything off here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to come up and make the part level. So I'm on the levels tab. What I'm going to do is go up to the part level, and I am going to put a check over here. So now what this is this check means that the part level, which has no entities, there are no entities assigned to them. Notice that the fixture has 2 entities. And again, the reason for 2 entities for the fixture is because you have the solid jaw and a removable jaw. So there are 2 entities there. This is the dark green fixture. That's fixture number 1. Fixture number 2 on op 20 is the brown fixture. Again, you have a solid jaw and a movable jaw that we have. Hence, we have 2 entities. Right now, we have no entities on that, but I need to go and make sure that op 10, or excuse me, number 100 is visible here. This is in the levels, because that is where the part is going to be located. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to file, and instead of open, I am going to merge. So I'm going to merge, and it's asking me to pick a file to merge. And what I'm going to do is now bring that step file into the file that has the vices already there. I'm going to look at the options down here before I hit open. I'm going to look at the options and the selections that I have. I like to put edge curves on separately because if I add the edge curves, if I turn this on, what's going to happen is I won't be able to separate the edge curves from the solid part, but I'm just looking at those. And so I'm just going to say, okay. And now I'm going to say open, and another dialog box opens up. In this dialog box right here, position, we can put it in a different location. We can go and do those types of things here. Notice that right now we want this part to go on the active level. That's why I made 100 the active level, so that when I bring this part in, this part is going to show up on the active level of 100, and there will be only one entity there because it is the only thing I have is this one solid. So I am going to click OK here, and now I'm going to slide over here, and I notice that now I have one entity, and that entity is the solid. I will shut that off and turn it back on. It's still the active level. This is just the visibility. I'm going to turn on the fixture now, and it looks like I have a problem here. I will turn on the table as well. Well, I'm going to leave the table off. I am going to get a right view of the screen, and what you see is that part came in the middle of the vise. Half of the part is above the vise, and actually if I turn the table on, half of the part is in the table. So that's the wrong location. And the whole point of this exercise is we have to go through the steps of how do we put stock around this part? How do we get this part in the correct location in the vise? And that's what the rest of the video series is going to talk about.